Today is February 11th, 2020. I wrote something this morning regarding something that happened yesterday, and I wanted to read it and remember it, and then if anyone's following along with the story of my life, they can see where I'm at right now. I have good news. This past weekend, Jim and I made a lot of growth. We talked quite a bit about the chicken and the egg. What comes first? He wants me to be honest with him, and he says my dishonesty is what has caused him to not trust me. I beg to differ. I was more than honest with him in the beginning of our relationship. But over time, the conditions in which he will accept me have narrowed, and now, in order to function, I have learned to hide my truth from him, out of self-preservation. I also see the importance of speaking my truth and choosing to speak it, regardless of his inevitable reaction. This is what I have learned, that I have room for improvement. Which brings me to this post. I have shared, probably more than I should, about Jim's flaws and the way it has affected my mental health. His poor behavior isn't a daily or deliberate act against me, or else I would have seen that sort of evil long ago. These days, the hardest part for me is to recognize him as human. A human that makes mistakes, just like you and me. I know he is not out to hurt me or our marriage on purpose. He is, though, hurting me and our marriage. It's because he is hurting. Even though it's a terrible example to our kids, I know he isn't being immature and insecure intentionally. What I have learned recently is that no matter how unintentional his actions are, I still have the responsibility to look after my own well-being. So rather than fall victim to his BS and see him as my own personal villain, I choose to stand up for myself, firmly but kindly. This is far better of a response than I used to do when I was so eager for his love and approval that I would play along and make it all better for him. When I played along, I got worse and his insecurities took root. When I saw him as the villain, we both got worse and no progress was made at all. We needed all of these experiences to help us see where we are at and what we are meant to be. But after this past weekend, I think the dam has finally broke. I couldn't put it into words until now, but I found the strength to stand up to him. This image right here shows me true progress. No, my side doesn't really show you what I have been working on, but it's about time I brag about Jim instead of condemning him, and show his progress to the select few that have my well-being in their prayers. This conversation came shortly after he threw a miniature fit about me informing him that I will be going to lunch with a different department at work. I didn't have to tell him, but I want my marriage to be open and I want to feel free to make minor decisions like this. The Crystal I was last year would have hid it from him and made sure he didn't find out. But after this past weekend, I found my strength to speak to him no matter what his reaction will be. But instead of him being cool with it, he flipped out, slightly. I told him his behavior was inappropriate over the phone, and he quickly saw the error of his ways and apologized before I was to leave to the restaurant. He knew he messed up, and he felt bad about it. This right here is huge progress in itself. When lunchtime came, I ended up deciding not to go to lunch with the other department. I chose not to go because we were very short-handed at work and I wasn't feeling very well anyway. Of course, Jim saw it as something he did and profusely apologized for his poor reactions, as you see here. He knew my attempt of being honest with him, keeping him in the loop, was all part of what normal married couples do. But him having a fit of jealousy in my attempts to be honest with him only proved my point to him that he makes it very difficult to be honest with him. I hope this illustrates progress for the long-term future. I hope I'm not making this moment bigger than it is. I truly do believe in rehabilitation, not abandonment, and my husband needs rehab. From his BS. Badly. Just like I needed help for my codependency, my victimness, my depression, my lying, etc. I just hope I continue to know that it is not my job to rehabilitate him. But I can continue to stand firm in my boundary and not letting him dictate my life and continue my pursuit of being balanced as I speak my truth. Thank you for your continued prayers. I appreciate your friendship. So the image that I'm talking about, because I can try to show you, but it's not going to really make a whole lot of sense. You see that it's a bunch of screenshots. So basically, I'll explain what the screenshots say. Monday at 10:45 a.m., I messaged him and said, "Hey, can I call you real quick?" And then he messages me back and he says for me to call him at his work phone. And then, of course, there's a long break of no messaging, and the next time stamp is Monday at 11:19. And that's because in between that time and the other time, I had a conversation with him, and then I went back to work. And that conversation I had with him, he flipped out that I wanted to go to work with another department, and he already has a hard time with me being at work all day with a bunch of people he doesn't know, but he has adapted to the 3-4 men in my department, and has concluded they are not a threat to our marriage. So when he heard that I wanted to go to lunch with another department, he had a jealous fit because he doesn't know if they're a threat or not. But I nipped that on the phone and told him that's not cool. I'm just trying to be honest with you, and if I can't be honest with you, I could go to lunch and not tell you at all. So what kind of marriage do you want here? It's pretty much what I said. And that's when he apologized profusely. So I messaged him at 11:19 and I said, "I've decided not to go." And he says, "Why? Go, please. I'm sorry." And then he messages again. "My mind just went to sitting with guys and chatting with them." So he's imagining me sitting with guys at a restaurant that he doesn't know. He doesn't know if they're a threat or not. And he spun out of control in his brain just by me telling him I wanted to go to lunch with a different department at work. So then he messages me again and he says, "Please go." So then I message him back and I say, "I'm sick to my stomach and they are shorthanded here anyway," which is the truth. My stomach had really nothing to do with him, and I was feeling guilty for leaving my coworkers. They were short-handed and it was really busy, and I just didn't feel like eating Mexican food with the way my stomach felt, and I really would rather have just stayed there and taken phone calls. So I did, and I told him about it so that he wasn't expecting me to be going or looking and wondering when I was going. And I knew that anxiety was going to cause him a lot of angst, so I just told him I wasn't going. But when I told him that I was sick to my stomach, he thought that I was sick to my stomach because of him, which I'm fine with him thinking, because I have had a lot of stomach aches because of him. But I was fine mentally yesterday. Just physically I wasn't. So anyways, his message back to me was, "I didn't want this. It was my fear that said that. I don't want this type of relationship. I love you, and you said something. You said something. You did what I asked. I am sorry I failed you. But please go if you want. I am not mad or anything. It was a fear and a weak feeling by me. So that right there tells me that he is owning his fear. He's owning what he did. He is apologizing again and again. And like, he was adamant that I should go if I want to, which I think is great. Because if I wanted to go, I would have gone. I would have gone anyway before any of this. But I didn't want to go. But that's not the message that he was feeling really guilty, thinking I wasn't going because of him. So I replied to him and I said, thank you for admitting that. That shows real growth in you. And I said, I am a mess right now physically, but mentally, I think I'm okay. I love you. Which is true. I was a mess physically. My stomach was in knots. Mentally, I was having a little bit of some people-pleasing moments by wanting to stay and help my coworkers. But physically, I really didn't feel like eating Mexican food. So that's what ultimately made me decide not to go to the restaurant. So then he said, I love you. Again, I am sorry. It is something that is hard for me to let go. I am trying. Thank you for moving past your struggles and letting me know. Again, I am sorry I failed you. You do not deserve that. Wow. I have waited so long. I have waited so long for him to see what his actions are and how inappropriate they are. And I've been such a good wife to him, and he hasn't seen it. But in this moment, he saw that. And he said, you do not deserve that. That is huge. Huge, right? So I said, seriously, you saying that made my heart melt. And that's when I have the Kristen Bell gif. And she's, oh my gosh, my heart, she just, she's being really cute and animated with how her heart is melting. And then he throws me a kissy face and he says, I am trying, but I am a cotton-headed ninny muggins. And it's a gif of the Buddy the Elf from the Elf movie. Anyway, I really don't have much else to say about this. I really just wanted to document where we were at because I talk a lot of crap about him on this channel. I talk a lot of hard feelings that I have to get through, and I really feel like he's making some progress, and if I don't document that part at least, then I know I'm not going to be honest about where our progress is at, right? I don't want it to be just a one-sided conversation. I really do want to be honest with where I do see progress. And I also don't want to be naive and think that this is going to solve everything. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I sure hope he keeps chipping away at that iceberg to help us. Anyway, I'm going to go back and get ready for work now. So I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.